to be uninformed of this mystery. For, don't skip that word for. It is a conjunction which means because. Whenever you see a verse begin with for, it's a good habit to ask yourselves, because of what? Because of what? Why is this for in the beginning of the passage? What is Paul linking it with? Observe that Paul has just asked, how much more shall these who are the natural branches, that is the Jews, be grafted into their own olive tree? Paul has just explained the olive tree, which represents the promises given to the father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which were roots in Abraham's covenant. He has just stated that the olive tree was a cultivated olive tree, and that the Gentiles who are participating in it as branches grafted in, and not the natural branches, which are the Jews. The natural branches of this trees are Jews, and those that have been grafted in are the Gentiles. So in light of this truth, Paul wants the Gentiles to understand that there is a greater potential, how much more, for unbelieving Israel to come to faith than there was for Gentiles who are saved by adopting that which the Jewish had. And here's what Paul said, how much greater when unbelieving Israel comes to faith. He is stating they will come to faith. And how much greater is it going to be when they do? In other words, Christianity was founded on the Old Testament Scriptures, which were the privileged possession of the Gentiles, and we Gentiles have come to believe in a Jewish Messiah. And Paul's point is that we Gentiles need to think about the dynamics. For I do not want you, brethren, to be uninformed. If we Gentiles who were unnatural branches came to believe in the Messiah as our Savior, how much more likely is it for God to turn unbelieving Jews of Israel to faith in the Messiah? Now follow me closely with that. That hasn't happened yet. And you might say it is going to be impossible for God to turn unbelieving Israel back to Jesus Christ because they are so hardened. They do not want Christ. If God, by His grace, turned you and I from our unbelief to righteousness, how much greater God has of returning unbelieving Jews to where they were before. In other words, the Jews have a much greater closeness and a natural connection than the Gentiles. And yet we Gentiles, we are the wild olive branches. We came by faith, even though we had less natural connection to the olive tree, and since this has happened to you Gentiles, don't be surprised when Israel comes to faith in what is often incorrectly regarded as a Western religion. Only us in the West believe there is coming a time that God is going to restore Israel to its proper place. And so many reformers today are saying, that ain't going to happen. I'm here to tell you that the Apostle Paul says it's going to happen. And I can tell you this, don't be so cocky, Gentiles, to underestimate the power of God. I think Christians today have underestimated the power of God. I do not want you. So Paul is saying, in the strongest way possible, he does not want his readers to be ignorant of what he is about to explain. Now he warns them that what I'm about to say is almost unbelievable. So I want to set up front that what I'm about to say in the strongest terms is right. I'm just going to prep what I'm going to say so that you understand God is going to do it. Now before I say what he's going to do, I'm just going to tell you, you need to do it. You need to believe it. He doesn't tell us verse 26. He doesn't read verse 26 before he gives us verse 25. So often we do that. Now we can't believe that when Paul says in the strongest terms. The present tense speaks of being continually ignorant. We are continually ignorant about this issue that Paul's addressing. Ignorance in this area is not bliss, but leads to one becoming wise in their own mind. In other words, it's not that they're stupid or dumb. It's not that they're stupid or not human. They're just bliss. They just are very arrogant in what they believe. The ignorance can be as simple as the fact that one has never been taught the truth inherited in the mystery, or that the preaching in one's church is shallow and tends to avoid non-seeking, friendly, controversial topics, as Romans chapter 9 through 11. They just don't talk about it. Therefore, you're ignorant because you've never heard it. The most heinous reason for ignorance is not that one has not heard the truth, but having heard the revelation of this mystery, makes a conscious choice to reject it. There is what I call interpret as a subtle form of anti-Semitism in the church today, in which some believers simply do not like the fact that God has chosen a nation called Israel and that he is not finished with them. They just don't like to hear that the time is coming that the Gentiles are going to be set in their place, and the Jews are going to be set in their proper place, and the Gentiles are going to have to go to the Jews to get to Christ in Jerusalem. The mystery. The word mystery. It is a word that speaks some truth which is not discoverable apart from being revealed by God. If God doesn't reveal it, then you'll never know it. The only truth that we know about God is how he has revealed himself to us. Mystery in the New Testament is a truth previously unknown but now revealed. And thus Paul is not using mystery like we do in the modern as something mysterious, something unknown. It's quite the opposite is true. For when mystery is used in the New Testament, it refers to a truth which is difficult to understand, but the truth previously reveals, and it's going to make it understandable. So my task is to make verse 26 reasonably understandable. Now I'm expecting y'all to get it because you're all smart, right? Can I share with you that this week, I'm 66 years old, I've been saved in church all my life, and it wasn't until this week, that I came to an understanding in my mind, in agreement with what I'm about to teach this week or next week. You see, sometimes our minds are so prejudiced. Sometimes our mind is so closed that no matter what someone says to you, you're not going to believe it. You don't want to believe it. And if it's true, you're still not going to believe it. And it keeps you from expanding your thought. And though maybe I have heard what I'm about to say, and most of what I say every Sunday is something that I'm just learning myself, and I've preached Romans enough times, you wonder if I ever taught it right the first time around, which I did, but that's more understandable. But it's coming to an understanding. You may hear things 15 times and don't understand it. On the 16th time, I get it. So if I have to say it 16 times for you to get it, I'm willing to do it because I do not want you ignorant of what I'm about to say. Here's the mystery revealed in that Israel's blindness or hardening. One of two things. They have been hardened. They have been blinded. We've discussed that. Their mind is blinded by a sovereign God. He has stopped their mind. They cannot believe. He always has a remnant of Jews that will believe, but the other group cannot and will not and are unable to believe. Even if they wanted to. If they wanted to, they could believe. By the way, anybody that wants to can believe, but they can't believe. No. Here's one thing. Number one. Some people believe it's partial, not complete. The Jewish believing remnant through the ages, it is partial. No, wait a minute, let me back it up. The hardening is partial, meaning that not all Jews have been hardened. It's partial in that there are still Jews who can be saved. Number two, it's temporary. It's partial and it's temporary. It will last only until, and we'll learn, until the time when all Gentiles whom God will save have in fact been saved. This is something that I've said for years. When will Christ come? And I've always said in jest, when the last Gentile has been saved, and Jesus will come. When the last person, the last Gentile has been saved, and God has brought in all His elect, then He's going to come back, and He's going to open the hearts of the Jews, and they're going to believe. But until then, the Jews are not going to be able to believe. Until, notice what it says somewhere in that verse, until the time of the Gentiles, and we'll discuss that as we get to it.